Tommy Blake wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared down into the massive crack in the red earth. The Vermilion Canyon stretched out before him like a wound that never healed. His mom always said it was dangerous down there. The teachers at the colony school said the same thing. Heck, even the cleaning robots had warning signs telling people to stay away. But Tommy was 13, and 13-year-olds don't always listen to warnings. He'd been thinking about the canyon for weeks now. Ever since that night when he couldn't sleep and stood by his bedroom window watching the stars. That's when he saw it, something big moving down there in the darkness. Something that reflected the moonlight in a way rocks definitely shouldn't. The colony of Terraform 7 wasn't much to look at. Just a bunch of metal domes connected by enclosed walkways, sitting on a planet that was mostly red dust and rocks. Tommy had lived here his whole life. His dad worked in the mines. His mom was a major in what was left of the Earth Defense Force. Pretty boring stuff really. Except for the canyon. Everyone knew the story. 16 years ago, humans had fought a war against the Draconis. That's what people called them, the Dragon Aliens. Tommy had seen the videos in history class. Massive creatures with wings that could blot out the sun, breathing fire that could melt through starship hulls. The war had been brutal. Millions dead on both sides. And then just as suddenly as it started, both sides pulled back. Nobody won. Nobody lost. They just stopped. The canyon was left over from one of the last battles. A place where human artillery had torn the ground apart trying to stop a Draconis advance. Now it was a scar on the landscape filled with old weapons, unexploded bombs, and probably radiation. At least that's what the adults said. Tommy started climbing down. The rocks were loose under his boots, and more than once he had to grab onto an outcropping to keep from sliding. His backpack bounced against his shoulders. Inside he had a flashlight, some water bottles, and a sandwich he'd smuggled from the cafeteria. He told his mom he was going to study at his friend Ben's dome. She believed him. She usually did. The deeper he went, the cooler the air became. The red dust gave way to darker rock, scorched black in places. Tommy could see bits of old metal sticking out of the canyon walls, pieces of ships or weapons or something worse. He tried not to think about it too much. That's when he smelled it. Something like burned metal mixed with something else. Something alive. Tommy rounded a bend in the canyon and stopped dead in his tracks. There was a dragon. Not a small one either. The creature was absolutely massive, easily the size of his school's gymnasium. It lay wedged beneath a collapsed section of the canyon wall, tons of rock pinning its body down. One wing stretched out at an odd angle, the thin membrane between the bones torn and ragged. The other wing was completely buried. The dragon's scales, which should have been bright and colorful according to all the pictures Tommy had seen, looked dull and gray. Like ash. Like something dying. And there was a lance. An old human military lance, the kind they used in the war, sticking out of the dragon's side. Rust had eaten away at the metal, but it was still there. Still stuck. A wound that never got treated, never healed. Tommy's heart hammered in his chest. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to run. Dragons were the enemy. Dragons had killed people. His best friend's uncle had died fighting dragons. The colony's memorial wall had 200 names on it, 200 people who never came home because of creatures like this. He took a step backward. Then another. That's when the dragon's eye opened. It was the color of amber or maybe honey, with a pupil that looked almost human. The eye focused on Tommy with an intensity that made the boy freeze in place. He couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't do anything except stare back at this massive predator that could probably eat him in one bite. The dragon's mouth opened slightly. Tommy waited for fire, for roaring, for death. Instead he heard words. Soft words, spoken in broken English with an accent Tommy had never heard before. Please, don't leave me alone. The voice was rough, like someone who hadn't spoken in years. It cracked on the last word. And there was something in it that Tommy recognized, even though he'd never heard a dragon speak before. Loneliness. Pure, desperate, aching loneliness. Tommy stood there, frozen between fear and something else. Something that made his chest hurt. The dragon wasn't trying to attack him. It wasn't even trying to free itself. It was just asking. Begging really. Asking for someone, anyone, to stay. The boy looked at the canyon walls around them. At the rocks pinning the dragon down. At the old lance wound that had clearly been there for years. This dragon had been here since the war ended. Trapped. Alone. Waiting to die. And nobody knew. Nobody cared. Tommy thought about walking away. He really did. It would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing to do. Instead, he dropped his backpack on the ground and sat down on a nearby rock. Okay, he said quietly, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. I'll stay. The dragon's amber eye glistened, and its breathing seemed to steady just a little. The massive head lowered slowly back to the ground. Tommy Blake had no idea that this single decision, to sit with a dying enemy, was about to change everything. Not just for him, not just for the dragon, but for two entire civilizations that had been too afraid to try talking again. Sometimes the biggest miracles start with the smallest acts of kindness. Even in a forbidden canyon where nobody was supposed to go. Tommy came back the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that too. Each time he told his mom a different excuse. Study group at Ben's place. Extra credit project at the library dome. Helping Mr. Peterson clean the greenhouse. His mom was busy with military stuff most of the time, so she never questioned him too much. Tommy felt guilty about lying, but what was he supposed to say? Hey Mom, I'm hanging out with that dragon you guys left to die in the canyon? Yeah, that would go over real well. On the second visit, Tommy brought medical supplies. Nothing fancy, just stuff he could swipe from the school nurse's office without anyone noticing. Bandages, antiseptic spray, pain relief patches. He had no idea if any of it would work on a dragon, but he had to try something. The dragon watched him approach with those amber eyes. You came back, it said, and Tommy could hear surprise in that rough voice. Said I would, didn't I? Tommy replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. His hands were shaking as he opened his backpack. Most would not, the dragon said. Most would have run. Or told others. Or. The creature's voice trailed off, but Tommy understood. Or killed me while I couldn't fight back. Yeah, well, I'm not most people, Tommy said. He pulled out a water purifier tablet and dropped it into one of his canteens. You got a name, or do I just keep calling you dragon in my head? The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. Or maybe a cough. Hard to tell. Ravexith, it said. Last wing of the Crimson Fleet. Though I suppose the fleet part doesn't matter much anymore. There was bitterness in those words. I'm Tommy. Tommy Blake. I'm nobody important. He held out the water. Can you drink this? I don't know if your biology works like ours or... Ravexith's long neck stretched forward, and the dragon lapped at the water gratefully. Thank you, Tommy Blake. It has been many days since water. Over the next few visits they started talking. Really talking. At first, Tommy was cautious, asking simple questions. What was Ravexith's home planet like? How old was he? How did he end up here? Ravexith answered slowly, carefully, like someone who hadn't had a conversation in years. Which Tommy realized was probably true. The dragon told him about the Draconis homeworld, a place called Perithia, where cities were carved into mountains and libraries stored knowledge in crystal formations that sang when you touched them. He described the song winds, these bizarre weather patterns that carried sounds across continents, so dragons could hear each other's voices from thousands of miles away. We are a people of memory, Ravexith explained one afternoon. We sing our history. Pass it down through generations. Every dragon knows the songs of their ancestors going back centuries. That's actually pretty cool, Tommy admitted. He was sitting cross-legged now, closer to the dragon than he'd been on that first day. The fear had faded, replaced by curiosity. We just have books and computer files. Way more boring. By the fifth day, Tommy brought his datapad. Want to see Earth? He asked. Ravexith's eyes brightened. Literally, they seemed to glow a bit more. Your homeworld? Yes. Very much yes. Tommy scrolled through images. Oceans rolling with waves. Forests thick with trees. Mountains capped with snow. Cities lit up at night like jewels scattered across the land. Dogs playing in parks. Whales breaching in the sea. The Grand Canyon, which made Ravexith laugh because it looked a bit like the canyon they were in, except prettier. Beautiful, Ravexith whispered, staring at a picture of Earth from space, that famous blue marble shot. So much water. So much life. This is what you were defending. Yeah, Tommy said quietly. This is home. We have a saying, Ravexith said. To understand someone's heart, see what they protect. I understand now. Tommy showed him pictures of his mom in her uniform. His dad at the mining site. His school. His favorite pizza place in the colony. Normal stuff. Human stuff. And Ravexith told stories of his own. About being young, barely 200 years old when the war started. About the confusion when the fleets encountered humans for the first time in a star system both species thought was unclaimed. About the panic when misunderstandings turned into skirmishes, and skirmishes turned into battles, and battles turned into war. We thought you were destroyers, Ravexith said, his voice heavy with regret. Your ships moved so fast, struck so hard. We thought you wanted to burn everything. Take everything. And we thought you were monsters, Tommy replied. The vids showed you breathing fire, destroying our colonies. Everyone said you wanted to wipe us out. Both afraid, Ravexith said. Both wrong. On the 7th day, Tommy discovered something that made his blood run cold. He'd been poking around in the colony's public database, looking up canyon information when he found a work order. The mining company was expanding operations. They needed more space. And the Vermilion Canyon was scheduled for demolition in 18 days. They were going to bring down the entire canyon wall with controlled explosives. Turn it into a flat area for new equipment. The order had already been approved. Equipment was already being moved into position. Tommy's hands shook as he read the details. Ravexith would be buried under thousands of tons of rock. Dead before anyone even knew he was there. We have to get you out, Tommy said that afternoon, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. They're going to demolish this whole area. But Ravexith just looked at him with sad, knowing eyes. I cannot move, young friend. These rocks. I have tried. For years I have tried. Then I'll get help. I'll tell someone. Who would help an enemy? Ravexith asked gently. Who would risk anything for a creature like me? Tommy wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because Ravexith was right. Who would help? His mom? She'd probably be ordered to kill Ravexith herself. His dad? He'd tell Mom. His teachers. They'd call security. His friends? They'd think he was crazy. But there was something worse. Something Ravexith finally admitted on the 8th day. I am dying anyway, the dragon said softly. Even if the rocks were gone. Even if I could fly away. I am dying, Tommy Blake. What? The wound? Tommy looked at the rusted lance, feeling helpless. No. Loneliness. Ravexith's scale seemed even duller than before. My kind, we need connection. Need resonance with others. Our hearts, our biology, it requires bonds. Song memory shared between us. Alone too long we simply fade. Stop. I have been alone for 16 of your years. I am surprised I have lasted this long. Tommy felt something break inside his chest. That's not fair. That's not, you shouldn't have to die like this. Not alone. Not forgotten. But I will not be alone, Ravexith said, and there was warmth in his voice now. You came, Tommy Blake. You stayed. You brought me water and stories and pictures of your beautiful world. You have given me more than I deserved. It's not enough, Tommy said fiercely. Tears were running down his face now and he didn't care. You deserve more. Everyone deserves more than dying alone in a hole. That night, Tommy couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ravexith dying in that canyon. About the demolition coming. About how unfair everything was. And he made a decision. If there was any way, any possible way, to save Ravexith, Tommy was going to find it. Even if it meant breaking every rule. Even if it meant risking everything. Because that's what humans do. They don't give up on people. Even when those people happen to be dragons. Tommy spent the next 2 nights barely sleeping. Instead, he was hunched over his data pad, scrolling through medical files he definitely wasn't supposed to be accessing. Breaking into the colony's restricted archives wasn't easy, but Tommy had learned a few tricks from watching his friend Ben mess around with computers. A few backdoor passwords, some creative searching, and suddenly he had access to things marked classified and pre-war research only. Most of it was useless. Battle reports, casualty lists, weapon specifications. Stuff that made Tommy's stomach turn. But then, buried deep in a folder labeled First Contact Medical Studies, he found something. A research paper from before the war turned bloody. Back when humans and Draconis first met, there had been a brief period, maybe 3 months, where scientists from both sides actually tried to understand each other. One human doctor, a woman named Dr. Rebecca Walsh, had studied Draconis biology. And she'd written about something called bioresonance. Tommy read the document 3 times, his heart pounding harder each time. Draconis weren't just social creatures. They were biologically wired to connect with each other on a level humans didn't fully understand. Some kind of psychic link, maybe, or quantum entanglement of their nervous systems. The paper used a lot of big words Tommy had to look up. But the basic idea was simple. Draconis needed to bond with other conscious minds or their bodies would slowly shut down. It was like dying of thirst, except instead of water they needed connection. But here was the important part, the part that made Tommy's hands shake as he read it. Dr. Walsh believed the bioresonance could theoretically work with any sentient species. Not just other Draconis. Any thinking, feeling creature could potentially form a bond. The neural patterns just needed to be compatible enough. She'd never gotten to test it. The war had started, and Dr. Walsh had died in one of the first orbital bombardments. Her research had been buried and forgotten. Until now. Tommy looked up Draconis technology next. Found schematics for their neural interface devices, things they'd used for ship controls and medical treatments. He cross-referenced with salvage reports from old battlefields. And he realized something incredible. There were pieces of Draconis equipment scattered all over the restricted zones around the colony. Stuff the military had collected but never bothered to study properly. He could build the device Dr. Walsh had theorized about. Maybe. Possibly. If he didn't electrocute himself or fry his brain in the process. The demolition was in 11 days. Tommy started sneaking out at night. The security patrols were predictable. His mom had complained about the lazy night shift often enough. He slipped past the checkpoints and made his way to the old salvage yards where war debris was stored. Draconis ship fragments. Pieces of their medical equipment. Neural interface components that still hummed with faint power after all these years. He stole what he needed, piece by piece, hiding everything in his backpack. His friend Ben noticed Tommy acting weird and asked questions, but Tommy just said he was working on a science project. Not technically a lie. By day 8, Tommy had assembled something that looked like a metallic headband with crystal nodes built into it. It looked fragile and dangerous and probably wouldn't work. But it was all he had. He brought it to the canyon that afternoon. Ravexith was weaker. Tommy could see it immediately. The dragon's breathing was more labored. Those amber eyes didn't shine as bright. The scales were the color of old ashes now, barely any hint of the crimson they used to be. "Hey," Tommy said softly, sitting down beside the massive head. "I found something. Maybe. I don't know if it'll work." "Tommy Blake," Ravexith said, his voice barely a whisper now. "You should not waste your time on me. The end comes soon. I feel it." "No." Tommy pulled out the device. His hands were shaking. "There was this doctor before the war. She studied your people. She believed that the bond you need, the bioresonance thing, it could work with humans. We're sentient. We're conscious. Maybe our brains are compatible enough." Ravexith's eyes widened slightly. That was theorized, yes. In the old songs. The resonance between different souls. But it was legend. No one ever achieved it. Well, maybe we're about to make history. Tommy tried to sound confident, but his voice cracked. This might not work. It might hurt. I don't know what it might do. But you're dying anyway, right? So we might as well try. The dragon was quiet for a long moment. Then, you would risk this? Risk your mind, your life for me? You asked me not to leave you alone, Tommy said simply. I'm not leaving. Ravexith's eyes glistened. Then try, brave small one. Try. Tommy's hands shook as he placed the device on his temple. The crystal nodes felt cold against his skin. He'd rigged it to activate with a voice command, probably stupid, but he'd seen it in movies and didn't know how else to do it. Okay, he said, taking a deep breath. Okay. Here goes everything. He looked at Ravexith one more time. See you on the other side. See you on the other side, Ravexith echoed. Tommy spoke the activation phrase. Connect. The device hummed. The crystals glowed. And then, bang. White-hot, searing, terrible pain exploded through Tommy's skull. It felt like lightning was racing through his brain, down his spine, through every nerve in his body. He screamed. Distantly, he heard Ravexith roar, a sound of agony that shook rocks loose from the canyon walls. Tommy's vision went white, then black, then filled with colors he didn't have names for. He felt like he was falling and flying at the same time. Like he was being torn apart and put back together. Like he was dying and being born. And then, suddenly, he wasn't alone in his own head anymore. Memories that weren't his flooded through him. He saw through Ravexith's eyes, saw the dragon's childhood on Perithia, learning to fly above crystal cities. Saw the first human ships appearing in the disputed system, so small and fast and terrifying. Saw battle after battle, each one more desperate than the last. Dragons and humans killing each other over a misunderstanding neither side knew how to fix. He saw Ravexith getting wounded, the lance piercing his side. Saw him falling from the sky. Saw the rocks coming down, pinning him. Saw his fleet retreating without him, thinking he was already dead. Saw years passing in the dark. Alone. Waiting. Hoping someone would come. And then he saw himself. Tommy Blake, a skinny 13-year-old kid, climbing down into the canyon. Sitting down on a rock. Saying, okay, I'll stay. Such a small moment. Such a huge impact. Tommy gasped and opened his eyes. He was lying on his back, staring up at the red sky. The device on his temple was still humming, but the pain was gone, replaced by something else. Something warm. He could feel Ravexith, not physically but emotionally. Could sense the dragon's presence in his mind like a gentle flame. Could feel surprise, wonder, joy, and overwhelming gratitude washing through the connection. Tommy, Ravexith's voice came, but not just from the dragon's mouth. Tommy heard it in his head too, clear and strong. I feel you. Your warmth. Your light. I am not alone. Tommy sat up slowly. The neural link glowed softly on his temple, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. I feel you too, he whispered. Your memories, your pain, your hope. Ravexith, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. Do not be sorry, the dragon said, and Tommy could feel his scales brightening, color slowly returning. Be proud. You did what no one else could. You bridged the gap between our kinds. Tommy smiled, feeling tears on his cheeks. Happy tears this time. We did it. Holy crap, we actually did it. That's when he heard his mother's voice echo through the canyon. Tommy? Step away from that thing right now. Tommy's blood turned to ice. He looked up to see Major Lisa Blake standing at the canyon's edge, a rifle aimed directly at Ravexith's head. His mom had found them. And she looked absolutely furious. Tommy scrambled to his feet, positioning himself between his mother and Ravexith. His legs felt like jelly, but he stood his ground. The neural link on his temple pulsed steadily, and through it, he could feel Ravexith's sudden fear mixed with resignation. Mom, wait, Tommy started. I said step away from that creature, Tommy. Now. Major Blake's voice was hard, military sharp. The kind of voice that expected immediate obedience. Her rifle never wavered. I'm not going to ask again. His name is Ravexith. The words burst out of Tommy before he could stop them. And he's not a creature, he's a person. He's been trapped here for 16 years and nobody cared enough to check if. Tommy Blake, you have 5 seconds to move or I'm dragging you out of there myself. His mom's finger moved to the trigger. Her face was pale, scared, angry all at once. That thing is dangerous. It killed people. It could kill you. Could have killed me, Tommy corrected, his heart hammering. I've been coming here for over a week. If he wanted me dead, I'd be dead. That made his mom pause. Her eyes flickered to Tommy, really seeing him for the first time. The device on his temple. The way he was standing protectively in front of a creature that could crush him with one claw. The complete lack of fear in his posture. What have you done? She whispered. Through the bond, Tommy felt Ravexith stirring. The dragon's voice was clearer now, stronger, though still rough from years of disuse. Major Lisa Blake. I remember you. His mom's rifle swung back to the dragon, but her hands were shaking now. You don't get to speak to me, monster. I remember, Ravexith continued, ignoring the weapon. Battle of Kepler Station. 17 years ago. You commanded the evacuation ships. My wingmates were retreating, wounded, defenseless. You could have destroyed them. Could have ended 36 Draconis lives. But you did not. You let them flee. You showed mercy when you did not have to. Tommy watched his mom's face go even paler. He could see memories playing behind her eyes. A battle she probably had nightmares about. I let them go because they weren't fighting anymore, she said, but her voice was quieter now. Because killing defenseless enemies is murder, not war. Exactly, Ravexith said. You understood honor. Even then. Even when we were enemies. His mom's rifle lowered slightly. Just an inch. But Tommy noticed. Let me show you something, Tommy said quickly, sensing an opening. The bond, it lets me share memories. Let me show you what I saw. Please, Mom. Just look. Tommy, this is insane. Please? He'd never begged like this in his life. Just 5 minutes? If you still want to shoot him after that, I won't stop you. Major Blake stared at her son for a long moment. Then, slowly she lowered the rifle. 5 minutes? Then we're having a very long conversation about following orders and staying out of forbidden zones. Tommy reached up to the neural link. Ravexith had shown him, through the bond, how to extend the connection temporarily. It would be weaker, more like watching a video than experiencing it fully. But it might be enough. He touched his mom's hand. And showed her the war from the other side. His mom saw through Ravexith's eyes. Saw the Draconis fleet arriving at the disputed system, finding a world they'd claimed decades ago suddenly filled with human settlements. Saw the confusion. The panic. The first shots fired by accident when a Draconis ship got too close to a human defense platform. Saw how fast everything spiraled out of control. She saw young Draconis warriors like Ravexith, barely 2 centuries old, thrown into a war they didn't understand. Saw them trying to protect their people while facing weapons they'd never encountered before. Saw the horror on their faces when they realized these strange bipedal creatures were intelligent, were people just like them. She saw specific battles, including one that made her gasp out loud. It was the Battle of New Providence Colony. The one where everyone said the Draconis had attacked civilians deliberately, where hundreds of human families had died. But through Ravexitha's memories she saw the truth. The Draconis fleet had been chasing a human military ship that was fleeing toward the colony. The ship had malfunctioned, crashed into the residential sector. When the Draconis arrived, they saw the destruction and thought they'd accidentally caused it. They tried to help, landing to pull survivors from rubble. Human forces had arrived and seen dragons in the ruins. They'd opened fire immediately, thinking it was an attack. The Draconis had defended themselves. And suddenly, everyone was fighting in the middle of a civilian area. Neither side wanted to be there. Neither side had meant for it to happen. But it became the bloodiest massacre of the war anyway. "Oh my God," his mom whispered, pulling her hand away. Her eyes were wide, shocked. Everyone thought you attacked on purpose," the tribunal said. "We thought you used your own colony as bait," Ravexith said quietly. "Thought you were willing to sacrifice your people to trap us." Both sides wrong. Both sides horrified. But by then too much blood spilled. Too much anger. Too much fear to stop. Tommy watched his mom sink down onto a rock, the rifle hanging loose in her hands. She looked like someone who just had her entire world tilted sideways. "All of it," she said. "The whole war. It was just, what? A horrible mistake that nobody could stop." "Not just one mistake," Tommy said softly. 1,000 little ones. Every misunderstanding building on the last. Every battle making it harder to talk. Until talking seemed impossible. His mom was quiet for a long time. Tommy could see her processing, her military training warring with what she'd just experienced. Finally she looked up at Ravexith. "You've been here since the evacuation," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. Too wounded to fly. Too weak to move. My fleet thought me dead. Easier to remember me as a warrior than come back for a broken failure." "That's horrible," his mom said, and Tommy heard real sympathy in her voice now. "No soldier should be left behind. Not even..." She trailed off, then seemed to make a decision. "Not even enemies." She stood up, slinging her rifle over her shoulder. She pulled out her comm unit. "What are you doing?" Tommy asked nervously. "Something that's probably going to get me court-martialed," his mom said. "But something that needs to be done." She keyed in a code. "Dr. Patterson? It's Blake. I need you in the Vermilion Canyon immediately. Bring every piece of xenobiology equipment you have. And don't tell anyone where you're going." "Major, what?" A confused voice came through the comm. "Trust me, Doctor. This is important." "Blake out." She switched channels. "This is Major Blake. I need a secure line to High Command. Priority Alpha. Yes, I know what time it is. Yes, I know what I'm asking. Just do it." Tommy stared at his mom. "You're really going to help?" "I'm going to try," she said. "But Tommy, you need to understand something. Even if we save him, even if we can prove the war was a mistake, there are people who won't care. People who lost too much. People who need someone to hate." As if on cue, another voice crackled over her comm, angry. "Sure. Blake, what the hell are you doing? This is Colonel Grant. I've been monitoring your communications. You're not actually trying to save that thing, are you?" His mom's face went hard. "Colonel, this is an active military situation. I lost my wife and both my kids to those monsters," Grant snarled. "You think I'm going to let you save one? I don't care what orders you think you have. That canyon demolition just got moved up. You've got 20 minutes to get out of there before I bring that whole cliff down on your heads." The comm went dead. Tommy felt ice flood through his veins. Through the bond, he felt Ravexitha's calm acceptance, which somehow made it worse. His mom was already moving, typing frantically on her comm. "Patterson, forget the equipment. Just get here now. And someone find me Captain Ross. I need every loyal soldier we have." She looked at Tommy, then at Ravexith. "I hope you two are worth starting another war over. Because that's exactly what might happen." 20 minutes. Tommy stared at his mom's comm device, watching the timer count down. 19 minutes. 58 seconds. 57. "Mom, we have to move," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was impossible. Ravexith was pinned under tons of rock. They'd need heavy equipment, time, and a whole crew of workers. Things they definitely didn't have. "I'm not leaving," Tommy said, making the decision instantly. He sat down next to Ravexitha's massive head, feeling the warmth of the dragon's scales through the neural bond. Tommy, no, his mom started. I'm not leaving him to die alone. Not after everything. Tommy's voice was steady now. Come. Through the bond, he could feel Ravexitha's emotions, grief, love, and a strange sense of peace. The dragon had been alone for so long that even facing death together felt like a gift. You should not die for me, small one, Ravexith whispered, his voice echoing in Tommy's mind and out loud at the same time. And you shouldn't have to die alone, Tommy shot back. We're in this together now. That's what the bond means, right? His mom looked between them, her face twisted with anguish. A mother's fear warring with a soldier's duty. She grabbed her comm. Ross. Where are you? I need people at the demolition control room right now. Captain Ross's voice came through, breathless. Already there, Major. We've got 4 hostiles trying to access the detonator. Grant's with them. We're holding them off, but gunfire crackled through the speaker. We can't hold forever. 18 minutes. Tommy closed his eyes, holding on to Ravexith through the bond. If these were his last moments, at least they meant something. At least he tried. At least Ravexith wouldn't be alone. That's when the sky tore open. It wasn't a slow thing. Reality just ripped. Like someone had taken a knife to the fabric of space itself. A swirling portal of light and energy appeared above the canyon, and Tommy felt the hair on his arms stand up from the sheer power of it. Ships emerged. Massive, organic-looking vessels that seemed more grown than built. Draconis ships. Panic erupted across the colony's communication channels. Alarms blared. Tommy's mom was shouting orders, trying to figure out if this was an attack. But then a voice boomed across every speaker, every comm device in perfect English. Humans of Terraform 7. We received your transmission about Last Wing Ravexith. We thought him lost with honor. You return our fallen to us? This changes much. Tommy's mom had sent a message. When she'd called High Command, she must have sent something to Draconis Space too. A desperate gamble that had somehow worked. The largest ship descended toward the canyon. It was beautiful and terrifying at once, its hull decorated with patterns that looked like dragon scales. As it got closer, Tommy could see the main doors opening. And then she emerged. If Ravexith was large, this dragon was colossal. 3 times his size easily, with scales that shimmered like molten gold in the sunlight. Ancient beyond measure, power radiating from every inch of her. She landed at the canyon's edge with a sound like thunder, her wings creating a windstorm that sent dust flying everywhere. 17 minutes. I am Matriarch Valaris, the golden dragon said, her voice resonating in a way that made Tommy's bones vibrate. I lead the Crimson Fleet. I came to find one of my own. Her massive eyes fixed on Ravexith, and Tommy felt a wave of emotion through the bond. Ravexith's shock, joy, and disbelief all mixed together. Matriarch, Ravexith said weakly. You should not have come. The risk. Silence, Last Wing, Valaris said, but there was warmth beneath the command. You were left behind. That shame is ours to bear. Her eyes shifted to Tommy, to the neural link glowing on his temple, and she froze. Completely, utterly froze. Impossible, she breathed. The child has bonded with you. The song between different souls. The ancient prophecy was real. Prophecy? Tommy's mom asked, her rifle still raised but uncertainty clear in her voice. Our oldest songs speak of it, Valaris said, still staring at Tommy and Ravexith in wonder. A bond between unlike minds. Different species, different worlds, choosing connection over division. It was said such a bond could heal the rifts between peoples. We thought it myth, legend, children's tales. 16 minutes. Well, it's real, Tommy said, surprised by how strong his voice sounded. And if you're here to help, we've got about 15 minutes before someone blows up this whole canyon. That snapped everyone back to the present crisis. Valaris's eyes blazed. Who dares? Humans who lost families in the war, Tommy's mom said quietly. Humans who can't forgive yet. Who see only an enemy. I understand such pain, Valaris said, and there was ancient sorrow in her voice. I lost 3 of my own children in your battles. But vengeance serves no one. Ross, that is your name, yes, Captain? Your warriors at the demolition site, tell them help arrives. She roared something in the Draconis language. Immediately, 3 smaller dragons launched from the ships, flying toward the colony at incredible speed. Tommy's mom was shouting into her comm. Ross. Draconis incoming, don't shoot. They're helping. I repeat, do not engage. 15 minutes. Meanwhile, more dragons descended into the canyon. They brought equipment, technology that looked like it belonged in a science fiction story. Devices that hummed with power. Medical scanners that floated in the air. A smaller dragon, her scales a deep purple, approached Tommy. "I am Healer Mithrin," she said in heavily accented English. "The bond you created, it is unstable, yes? Temporary?" I don't know," Tommy admitted. "I just used whatever I could find. Old research and salvaged parts." "Brave. Foolish. But brave." Mithrin's eyes glowed as she scanned him and Ravexith. "The bond holds. Barely. But with proper care, proper technology, we can make it permanent. Stabilize it. This child saved your life, Lastwing Ravexith." "I know," Ravexith said softly. "He saved more than my life. He saved my soul." 14 minutes. More dragons were working on the rocks now, using some kind of focused energy beam to carefully cut away the stone pinning Ravexith. Others were treating his wounds, including that ancient lance injury. Tommy watched in amazement as technology and what looked almost like magic worked together. His mom's comm crackled. "Major, the Draconis got here. They're not attacking. They're helping us hold the control room." Grant's men stood down. They didn't know what to do when dragons showed up and started guarding them instead of fighting. A laugh bubbled up in Tommy's chest. The absurdity of it all. Humans and dragons working together, forced into cooperation by a ticking clock and a stubborn kid who wouldn't leave someone to die alone. 10 minutes. The rocks were falling away. Ravexith's wing, so long trapped, finally moved. He groaned with pain and relief. "Easy, Lastwing," Mithrin said. "You have not moved in many years. Your muscles must remember." 5 minutes. Captain Ross's voice came through. "Major, we've disabled the detonator. It's done. The canyon is safe." Tommy felt his legs give out. He sat down hard, suddenly shaking all over. They'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, they'd actually done it. Ravexith was being lifted by multiple dragons working together, their combined strength finally freeing him from his prison. His scales were brightening with every passing second, color flooding back as Mithrin worked on his injuries and the connection to his own kind strengthened him. But the neural link with Tommy remained. If anything, it felt stronger now. "The bond will not break," Valaris said, watching them. "It is permanent. This human child and our Lastwing are connected for life now. They are proof." "Proof of what?" Tommy's mom asked. "That we do not have to be enemies," Valaris said simply. "That choosing to understand, to connect, to care, that is stronger than any weapon. Your son did what fleets and armies could not. He ended the war." Over the next few hours, more happened than Tommy could fully process. Diplomats arrived, both human and Draconis. His mom was in 100 meetings at once. Dr. Patterson showed up and nearly fainted when she saw living Draconis up close. The colony was in controlled chaos, half the people terrified, half excited, everyone confused. But through it all, Tommy stayed with Ravexith. The dragon could stand now, could move, though he was still weak. They worked on him for hours, human doctors and Draconis healers side by side, learning from each other, saving a life together. "You know this changes everything, right?" Tommy said as the sun started to set. "Yes," Ravexith replied, his crimson scales fully restored now, magnificent in the golden light. "One boy. One dragon. One choice to stay. And 2 civilizations get a second chance." "No pressure or anything," Tommy joked, though he felt the weight of it. Through the bond, he could sense Ravexith's amusement and affection. "We carry it together, small one. That is what bondmates do." 6 months later, Tommy stood on a platform between human and Draconis ambassadors. It was the first official peace summit since the war ended. Real peace this time. Built on understanding instead of exhaustion. Ravexith stood beside him, massive and proud, though he bore scars that would never fully fade. The neural link still glowed softly on Tommy's temple, a permanent reminder of the day everything changed. "Thank you," Ravexith said quietly in the privacy of their shared bond. "For not leaving me alone." Tommy smiled, reaching up to touch the dragon's scaled foreleg. "Thank you for teaching me what humans do best. We connect. We care. Even when it's hard. Even when it's scary. We don't give up on people." Outside, the first joint colony ship prepared for launch. Human and Draconis crew working together. 2 species that had nearly destroyed each other now building something new. All because one kid climbed down into a forbidden canyon and decided that loneliness was something worth fighting against. Sometimes the biggest miracles start with the smallest choice. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to stay.